If you want to learn about colour inspiration for men's cards, then you're in the right place. And stick around because I've got a bonus tip to share. Alright, I'm going to walk you through how to use your swatches to make some masculine colour combinations, and we're going to make some cards. To choose my colour palette, I'm going to use the wheel just to give me an idea. The pure colours are the one that this arrow in the outside will point to, so I'll choose something that I think might be a bit of fun. Blue's always a good colour for men. Green's always good. Doesn't really matter because we're going to use the cardstocks that we've got here. So if I do a blue, and if I'm doing a split complementary, it's this triangle here. So I could see how that looks. I'll grab out the blue, yellow, orange, and the red, orange. So red, orange, yellow, orange, and the blues. Next, I'm just going to spread my colours out here. Some of them aren't very masculine colours, so that will limit me a little bit. If I want to use cardstock, I can also blend my own coloured cardstock if I don't have a colour that I need. Oh gosh, I've got a lot of yellow, orange. Okay, and then the blues. I kind of think these two colours here would be better. These are a bit girly, so I'll go with these colours. See if I can throw together some sort of a combination using them. It makes my heart happy. That's a very masculine combination. It's a little bit yellower. Could even add the red to that. Change up the blue to a more, like a deeper blue. The other thing is I could use different versions of the same colour, different tints, tones and shades. So I could add these in, like a lighter, like all different shades of blue and different shades of the, that's pretty cool. And then could do it like a pop of colour. So that could be fun. Let's give that a try maybe. Isn't it funny how colours inspire? I thought this combination really reminded me of the sea. So that is where I went today. And it's also a great theme for men's cards. So all the hard work is done. Our colour palette's chosen. Well, it's kind of a big step towards having your cards made. But where can we go from there? I like to make fairly clean and simple masculine cards. And one of my favourite go-to techniques is to do colour blocking. And these colours are a lot of fun together, and I thought it'd be great to create my own colour blocked background. To work out where to put my colours, I have an A2 window that I've cut out of some scrap cardstock, and it just helps me visualise how the colours are going to look. So while I was putting this together, I realised that I could have used the yellow as a light from the lighthouse, so that's what I ended up doing here. I played around with it for probably longer than I should have, but to me that's part of the fun of making cards. To assemble my colour blocked background, I've got some double-sided adhesive. This is a sheet of it, and I've attached it to a piece of cardstock, and then I'm literally just going to pick up my pieces of coloured cardstock and butt them up against each other. This is a real cheaty way to create a quick background panel. Then I'm just going to use some scissors to cut away the excess, and I can use my paper trimmer or even a rectangle die to cut the actual panel down a little bit because I want to leave a white border on the front of my card. That's totally optional. If you want the whole card front covered in your coloured cardstock, go ahead because that looks fabulous too. You may have noticed that I've also made a couple of rocks here for my lighthouse to sit on, and they are done in a couple of different grey colours. Now, these are considered a neutral, so when you are making colour combinations, then if you want to add some neutrals, typically they're going to go well with any of the designs that you have. So these are your greys, blacks, whites, creams, sometimes even browns, glitter cardstock, even metallics will work here. And they're great because you don't have to think about adding them to your design. They're just something that you know you can probably throw in and it's going to look fine. And also add a little bit of contrast, which is nice. So this card here, I literally just used the cardstocks that I chose with the original swatches and a couple of neutrals. Now we're on to our second idea, which is to use inks, and we're going to be doing some stamping. Now I happen to have very similar or pretty much the same colors in inks as the cardstock. That is a benefit of having coordinating cardstocks and inks, but obviously you can just match it as best you can. Being able to use these cardstock swatch combinations with your inks is just going to help you get more from your supplies. So it's a great way just to develop some really cute color combinations, but you're not just stuck to using them with cardstock alone. And you're also not stuck with using them with inks alone. You can also use them with other mediums such as watercolors, and this is where the reverse side of the wheel comes in handy. If you're wanting to create a specific color, this is where you can learn to mix colors to get exactly what you want. If you look along the outside of the wheel again at the pure colors, beneath it as you turn the wheel, it has another color, and a bit lower it will show you, if you combine those two colors, the resulting color, what will happen when you mix them. Obviously it's going to change due to the amount of paint that you mix together, and you can adapt this to suit any different shades, tints or tones of a certain color. So I wanted to recreate the pumpkin pie color, and looking at the color wheel, that meant mixing a combination of the orange and the yellow. Now initially I think I didn't think it was light enough, so I came in and just tapped away some of the color using the paper towel and added a little bit of extra yellow and then painted over top. Normally what I do is use a scrap piece of cardstock and test my colors first, but I was being lazy today and that shot me in the foot. One other thing I want to talk about is the amount of color. So you can use as much or as little of your color combinations as you want. I like to do like blocks of color and then use a pop of color, like I've done with the red on these first few card designs. It's just a detail that draws the eye to something specific, and a nice bright color like red will do that, but it's not overpowering because I am only using a small amount. And of course you can do the neutrals, and another great idea is to have a lot of white space and perhaps just use all of the colors but only in very small amounts, and I think that looks fabulous too, especially on men's designs. I have got a quick tip to share with you here. To flatten out a warped piece of cardstock, watercolor cardstock typically, I just put it between a piece of copy paper and run it through my die cutting machine a couple of times. It works a treat. But of course that's something you want to do after the panel has dried. So with things like neutrals, this time what I've done is come in and add a black sentiment. It's not a stamped, it's kind of a stamped sentiment because I used the Better Press, which works particularly well on watercolor cardstock. Then when I'm adding all of my elements, I'm kind of wanting to balance the colors out. Like I've got that big yellow background, which is mimicking the sand. And then I've got these beach umbrellas that I'm kind of spreading out. And in design, if you use odd numbers, it's more pleasing to the eye. So I've used 3 of the umbrellas here, and I'm offsetting them until I'm happy with how they sort of balance. There's only really a small amount of the blues in this card design, but having that pop of red and that bright yellow in the background, I think it makes it really fun. So we're still using the inks again, but this time I'm going to be using some stencils and doing some ink blending. Now I've got a really big word here. It says hooray, and I've separated the 2 portions of the word and making them in 2 of the colors. So I'm going to be using blue for the top portion of the word and the yellowy kind of pumpkin pie color for the last 3 letters. And I think that's a really fun way to do color blocking with the letters. I did think about blending the colors throughout, because you might notice I'm doing an ombre style with my ink blending here. The reason I didn't flow the two colors together is because joining the blue and the yellow would have made a green, and I didn't want to personally add another color into the mix with these cards, but you could certainly do that if that's the look that you want. You can also use any stencils that you have with the colors that you've chosen in your swatches. Stencils are a fun way to add elements for masculine cards, and you can use any stencils that you have that would give you a nice fun background design. If you don't have a word stencil such as this, use the colors that you've chosen to create a quick fun pattern background, and then maybe add a big die cut word on top. That would look fabulous. I like to use a bigger piece of cardstock than I need. I can always use a rectangle die to cut it out and straighten it up. And it's really easy. You can match your alcohol markers to the cardstock. I have my markers swatched out in a color book, and just held them up against the colors and was able to choose ones that I thought coordinated well. It doesn't have to be a perfect match, and you can add different colors and tones and tints, and you'll see a little bit more soon where I've done that again. But I thought this cute seagull would be fun and bring that sea link into this card here. Like I said, we're at the sea today. It's like 34 degrees here, so I need to be at the beach. I'm not sure if you noticed my creative opportunity here, which I mis-inked a section, so I did just cover that up with some enamel dots. And again with the dimension, I know, I can't help myself. I did also want to mention that if you've got water-based dye inks, you can use these as watercolors. You just put them on a palette and pick them up with a bit of water and a brush like you would any other watercolor. It's a great way to stretch your supplies. And this is my final design for today. I'm kind of mixing up a couple of the ideas that we've already touched on. I've got some alcohol markers, but this time, rather than just use the one color that's the exact match to the cardstock, I've chosen a few different tones and then created some shading. So you don't have to have it exact. You can use different tones within the same color family and get the look. I did some really simple coloring. I'm a little bit addicted to the koi fish. So one thing I was a bit disappointed in when I was coloring them, and I never thought of this till after, is I should have come in and added the red, the pop of red that I've been doing in the other card designs. I should have done that for the splotches on the koi fish, and I'm kicking myself now. So I'm probably going to have to remake this card and do it with the red pop of color, because that's all I want to see now. For some reason I had it in my mind that it had to be dark, and that's what I did with it. But that's okay. This is the only card that doesn't have that real pop of red. The other technique that I'm touching on again on this card is the color blocking, but this time I'm stepping it up, doing an ombre style with all of the blues, and I'm using a shaped edge die. If you don't have a shaped edge die, you could certainly just cut a shape with your scissors, or even just do more of an angle if you want to just cut a straight angle with a paper trimmer. If you don't feel confident to cut it with scissors, you don't have to butt them up against each other. You only would need to cut one of them, and then you could stick it on top or underneath, and that way you get the same kind of look and you don't have to be too perfect with the design. Color blocking in your backgrounds is a really fun way to get a totally different look on a card. You don't have to use plain colors here. You could also use design paper. You could also add textures by running it through with an embossing folder, or even splatter it with some white or black ink spray, that would, or even gold, that would look great too. Let's head back to the swatches now. I told you I had a bonus tip. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. If you find a colour combination that you adore, write it down or take a quick picture. Then, next time you sit down to craft, you've got your colour combination all ready to go. Alright, all together now, I've got the original card, which was made using just the cardstock and some die cuts. Used a colour blocking for the background. And we added our get out of jail free card with the neutrals. Next it was time to use the same colours, but we did this with the inks instead and did some stamping and also created our own watercolour background, perfectly matched using the reverse side of the colour wheel. And the next technique was to use the inks again. Hi Lily, but this time I used them through a stencil and did a big bold word background. Now these were done sort of in ombre style in the letters, but you could easily change this up and create a fun stenciled background with a die cut word on top. And the final card mixes a couple of the techniques where we used the alcohol markers, matched them to our colour palette in the colour families and created a colour blocked background again. Do you have a favourite card today? Let me know in the comments below. And are you going to try any of these techniques or create your own colour palette with your swatches? I've got 2 more videos here for you, including my organisational cardstock video and how I made these swatches. I look forward to seeing you there. If you liked today's video, please click on the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. What are you waiting for? It's totally free. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.